Hi, my name is Maggie, and I'd like to talk to you about what you might do with your ribbons after Dragon Con, but more importantly, how you can remove the adhesive so that you can do those things. Whether it's make a tapestry or quilt or display them in your home or even be as adventurous as to make a cosplay, you'll definitely need to remove that adhesive. And unfortunately, the most common ways that many cosplayers use to remove adhesive simply will not work for ribbons. These are methods like using a heat gun, harsh chemicals, petroleum based products, and a fan favorite glue gun. Again, unfortunately, these things tend to damage the ribbons and stain them to the point that they're unusable in these types of projects. I can't remember the word projects, but you get what I'm saying. Luckily for everyone in the ribboning community, I've spent a long time testing a number of different methods, and I have finally come up with a very cheap, simple, non-destructive, and safe way to remove adhesives from your ribbons using a lot of stuff I bet you already have in your house. So let's get started. These are the items that you will need in order to successfully remove the adhesive from your ribbons without damaging them. You can buy most of them at places like Walgreens, Walmart, or CVS, and all of the materials, if you had to buy them, are probably under about $10. I, however, had most of these already in my house. You'll first need parchment paper or wax paper to place the ribbons on while you work with them. This will prevent ink transfer from the ribbons to the surface below the wax paper or parchment paper. It will also help prevent ink transfer from ribbon to ribbon. Then you'll need something to apply the alcohol with. I use a paintbrush, but a sponge brush would do just fine. You'll need some isopropyl alcohol. You can see here I have 91%, but 70% will do just fine. This is what will eventually dislodge the adhesive from the ribbons. You'll also probably need a pair of tweezers. This helps to remove the adhesive after it has been dislodged without having to get your hands sticky or messy. I like to put my alcohol in a tiny glass so it's easy to dip the paintbrush in and control the amount that I'm using. It is important to control the amount and how long it sits on the ribbons to make sure that you don't get too much bleeding and there's no staining on the ribbons. And of course, last you need ribbons. The next thing I want to note is that when you have your ribbons, they're probably already stacked together, as they would be in a badge beard. That's okay. You can go ahead and take them apart like so. Don't worry if they get wrinkled. You can iron them later after this process is finished, and they will be perfectly flat. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward through this part so that we can get right to the removal. I like to dip my paintbrush about halfway into the alcohol and then rub it along the side of the glass to make sure that it's not going to drip everywhere. You can see that it's quite sticky on my fingers. Then I like to put a healthy amount on the back side where the tape actually is, and then I just make sure to brush the rest of the ribbon to soak it completely. You want to make sure that the entire ribbon is soaked, but not too soaked, because if you miss a part and it's not covered in the alcohol, that's where you'll get a little bit of staining or bleeding or just general unevenness in the color. Like right there on the corner, just gonna dab it. So you just continue to do this to all of the ribbons. You want to handle the ribbons with care because while the alcohol typically does not remove the foiling or printing, if you're too rough with them, it can sometimes do that. So again, you want to have enough alcohol so that it'll saturate the ribbon and lift the adhesive, but you don't want to lift the foiling. It tends to be a little bit more durable, well actually a lot more durable than the adhesive, so you shouldn't have anything to worry about. Like I said before, you'll notice the darker colors will bleed a little bit more onto the parchment paper. I will do this in batches of about 20, and by the time I'm done adding alcohol to the last ribbon, the first ribbon has already started to lift. It's been about 1 minute since I applied the alcohol. I'm going to lift a ribbon and pick an area that has already bubbled up, take my tweezers, and simply remove the adhesive. You can see that it's come off cleanly and the ribbon has actually already started to dry from the alcohol application. While you're removing the adhesive, you don't want to touch it with your fingers like this because it's still quite sticky. You'll also want to make sure not to scrape the foiling with the tweezers or get your fingers caught up on the foiling while the alcohol is still wet. Once the alcohol does dry, the foiling should be just fine. You can see that when you use the tweezers to remove the adhesive, that the ribbons do curl just a little bit. They'll dry like this, and once they're completely dry, in about 2 minutes, you can take an iron and iron them from the back side. They will get completely flat from ironing. However, if you want them to be ultra flat, you can take a small stack after ironing and place them under a book. And they'll be good as new to start your project. And there you have it. It's as simple as that.